coming up at midday.
Breaking news, the decision is in on the fate of a woman who caused her Granger home to explode. The world is reacting to North Korea's claim it's exploded a hydrogen bomb. And you got the itch? Powerball fever is alive and well with a nearly $500 million jackpot drawn tonight.
First, fast, accurate. You're watching WSBT 22 News at midday.
It's 12 noon. Good afternoon. I'm Bob Montgomery. And school districts across the area now have ISTEP scores they've been waiting on. Just hours ago, the Indiana Department of Education released last year's scores. Now, as predicted, scores dropped pretty dramatically across the board. New at midday, the GOP chairman of the House Education Committee already wants to hire a contractor rescoring those tests. He says the poor scores form a baseline to measure future progress. Now, only slightly more than half of Indiana students taking the ISTEP passed the language arts and math portions. Here are the numbers for some of our local schools. South Bend showing a sharp drop from 2014. 33% of the students passed the language arts and math portions. In 2015, that's compared to 59% in 2014. The Mishawaka score is also down. You can see PHM also seeing decreases. 87% of the students taking the ISTEP passed in 2014 compared to just 72% this time around. Now, in our other big districts, Elkhart dropping from 64% passing in 2014 to just 42% last year. Warsaw dropping from 77% to 59% passing last year. Now, state lawmakers are already saying they will fast track a bill that won't punish teachers for low scores.
I think this is good. This is a one-year relief program.
I'm hopeful that we'll see that legislation move in either chamber in the next week and get to my desk as soon as possible.
As you know, the test scores are tied to teacher pay and bonuses. There's some breaking news. This Granger mother just now sentenced to 3 years probation. It's in connection to a house explosion that sent 4 people to the hospital this past summer. 51-year-old Michelle Ellenberger pleaded guilty but mentally ill to 3 arson charges. WSBT 22's Suzanne Spencer just stepped out of court. Suzanne, you were there when Ellenberger spoke to the judge this morning.
She told the judge she was sorry for what she had done and she didn't mean to hurt anyone. Herself, family members, co-workers, and friends were all in court today. Court documents reveal Ellenberger was trying to commit suicide in her Granger home in June with carbon monoxide or natural gas. Fire investigators found someone had manually unscrewed the home's gas supply pipe. They also found 2 cars running inside the garage and the stove turned on. Ellenberger's daughter and her boyfriend arrived at home just before the explosion. They, along with Ellenberger and a responding police officer, went to the hospital. Ellenberger later admitted to police what she had done and that she had taken Xanax pills earlier that day.
It's taken quite a toll on our whole family. It sure has, because you don't expect this to happen, you know, in your family. I mean, you hear it in other families, but I just think everybody knows somebody with mental illness. And like I said, my sister, we're very blessed to have her, and she's very blessed to have a family that loves her so much.
Ellenberger's attorney told the judge that her conduct stemmed from mental illness and not from malice. She'll be on probation for the next 3 years, and she'll also be receiving mental health treatment. Now, the judge also brought up the severity of her actions, regardless of her intentions, citing the Indianapolis-Richmond Hill explosion that killed 2 people and injured several others. Live in South Bend, Suzanne Spencer, WSBT 22 News.
After an emergency meeting, North Korea's nuclear weapons test is now being called a clear breach of UN Security Council resolutions. A NATO secretary even says it undermines regional and international security. The chief also now calling on North Korea's government to respect the international obligations and commitments. North Korea announcing late last night it conducted a hydrogen bomb test. It's a move to put that country a step closer to upgrading its nuclear arsenal. The announcement came after a fairly large earthquake was reported around the test site. WSBT 22 meteorologist Carrie Peugeot joins us, and some change in the wind. Huh?
Yeah, we're going to get a little warm up,
Yeah.
a little one. and then we're going to get slammed with really cold air. And I've been kind of teasing about that as we get into next week. But we're still watching that. Outside today, it's even warmer than what we had yesterday. Bob, were you outside? Because
I was.
Did you notice that it's warmer or no?
I did not.
No,
not even a
because
little.
it's only between 5 and 8 degrees warmer. 8 degrees warmer at this time right now than what it was at this time yesterday in South Bend. 5 degrees warmer in Warsaw. So we're really not talking a major warm up here that's happening. Temperatures outside at this point are at 30 degrees in South Bend. You can see some of those 20s like Plymouth coming in, and along the lakeshore we have temperatures that are in the low 30s. These temperatures are pretty typical this time of year to have this type of high temperature. Now we will continue to see a warm up as we get into the next couple of hours above freezing. That will melt some of the snow and the ice that we see across the area, but we really are going to do more of that melting as we get into tomorrow and the end of the week. That's when the 40s return. So coming up, we'll show you those 40s as we get to those in the next couple of days. We'll also show that blast of cold air that we're still on track to see next week. More on that in just a few minutes.
President Obama is taking his push for gun control on the road tomorrow. He'll host a town hall meeting at George Mason University in Virginia. This is in hopes of making one final pitch to the public. Yesterday, you watched it live right here on WSBT 22 as the president unveiled his 10-point plan. The goal, at least one of them, to plug loopholes that will allow purchases of firearms at gun shows and online without a background check. The efforts are being widely condemned by Republican lawmakers and GOP presidential candidates. Here locally, there is some strong reaction to the president's plan as well. Several local Republicans denouncing it as an unconstitutional overreach. The reaction, though not limited to politicians, gun control advocates hailed this move as a positive first step, while gun rights advocates say the problem is not a lack of laws.
Criminals don't follow laws, so we can make all the laws that we want. I think you hurt honest citizens in the end more than you do criminals.
I don't think that there's evidence to support that. And I also am glad to not be living in the wild, wild west anymore.
Congressional Republicans have vowed to fight President Obama's actions both in Congress and in the courts. Happening right now, police near Indianapolis questioning 3 people. It's in connection to recent cyber threats against schools in Plainfield. Now, neighbors say a sophomore from Plainfield High School was taken by police for questioning overnight. Computers and electronics were also seen being taken out of the home. The violent online threats forced that district, the whole district, to cancel class in December. It also led to an early winter break. Now, police say the threats continued over the break. Classes did resume this week, but many parents still refusing to let their students return until they know more. A Cass County family now looking for a new way to make a living. The truck it used to haul RVs was destroyed in an overnight fire. It happened at a pole barn on Library Road. Explosions were also heard, turned out to be the truck's tires. There's no word yet on what caused this fire. The fire chief says the owners were working on that truck last night. No one was hurt in that fire. It is day 6 on the job for Benton Harbor's new mayor, and Marcus Muhammad was already working on the future of the city. He says bringing business to downtown will spur growth and reduce crime. He says he'll offer tax incentives and other tax breaks in hopes of bringing and retaining business.
I'm in the process now of speaking with certain business leaders so we can pull everyone in one room, put the best business minds together so we can come up with some strategies collectively and some methodologies that will entice investors to come and say, you know what, I want to do business in Benton Harbor.
The mayor says he'll spend the first 100 days communicating with local business leaders about ways to make Benton Harbor the, quote, Mecca of the Midwest by 2026. And in Elkhart just over an hour ago, Mayor Tim Neese started swearing in department heads. As for the new mayor, he's been spending his first days talking to city workers. The former city councilman and state representative says he wants to let the people in those departments do their jobs.
I'm not interested in running the police or fire department or code enforcement or the street department, but I want to oversee it. When there's a problem that needs my attention, then I want to be made aware of that and then resolve that concern.
Today marks the 3rd day on the job for new mayor Neese. There's a new report stirring up some trouble this midday in Elkhart. The article ranks Elkhart as the 3rd worst small town in America. Road Snacks, a web-based resource, looked at housing costs, crime rates, and unemployment to decide which cities rank the worst. Well, some in Elkhart strongly disagree.
When I did a little bit of research, I found that the people conducting the survey never visited Elkhart. They never visited our schools, to see the richness and the depth of education that we have both in our public schools, our private schools, our parochial schools. They never came to downtown Elkhart to see one of the finest botanical gardens for a city of any size, let alone a city of our size, anywhere in the country.
And if they're just looking at some statistics, well, statistics can be spun in any way, shape, or form, for or against, pro or con. And I feel that Elkhart is a city on the upswing.
Mishawaka made that list as well, coming in at number 19. Well, in just a few hours, Powerball is going to be growing up to now $500 million. That's how much you could win from tonight's drawing. Big, big cash. The actual cash payout just over $275 million. You may remember back in October, a Three Rivers, Michigan woman won $310.5 million in the Powerball game. She was the sole winner. She bought it at a West Shell gas station in Three Rivers. Now, it seems many of you are hoping to get rich from that very same gas station. WSBT 22 caught up with the manager. She says sales on Powerball tickets have more than doubled since that big win. WSBT 22's Danielle Kennedy is talking with people hoping to match all 6 numbers tonight. She'll have that reaction starting on WSBT 22 News at 5. Coming up, President Obama is expected to soon pull out his veto pin. The bill the House is expected to pass today that will be sent on to the Oval Office.
And we have the nice sunshine now, but we're still in the cool temperatures. We'll talk about a slight warm up, at least to melt that snow and ice. That's coming up next.
Now, your accurate first alert weather forecast with meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
You know, Carrie, I guess we can't complain too much because we've had a decent deal of sunshine the last 3 days. I mean, no permaclouds.
It's kind of been nice. In winter, it's kind of nice, right? But it's still cold outside, and we still have the sunshine. We're not dealing with any major issues. We just haven't had to deal with a lot of the cold air yet this season, and we have some of that, a lot of it actually, in the forecast. This is a look here at our first alert weather cam in South Bend from St. Joseph Health Systems. You can still see some nice blue skies. It's not as crystal clear as what we had yesterday, but it's still pretty great looking. We have just a few of those thin clouds, enough where the sun is shining right through. Won't be a problem for you for the rest of the afternoon. We're still going to see that sunshine. But temperatures have been cool, and wind chills have been even cooler. Wind chills still registering right around 20 degrees in South Bend and Benton Harbor. It feels like 25 in Elkhart. The actual temperatures are right around 30 degrees. In the next couple of hours, we're going to get above that freezing point. That, in combination with that sunshine, is going to help melt some of that snow and ice pack that we still have around the area. Tomorrow we get into the 40s, but I want you to watch what's happening here. The green indicates those warmer temperatures, but you can see that blue and that white color indicating the real cold air. That is still on track for us, but it's still going to be several days away. We're talking Sunday and Monday before we really get to that. So between now and then, we'll get a little bump in the warmer temperatures. We'll melt the snow and the ice that's on the ground now, and then we'll get to that really cold air as we get into Sunday and Monday of next week. As far as today is concerned, you can enjoy the fact that it's nice and uneventful. We have winter days and it's cool, but we're not dealing with any major issues, which is nice. This is a look at the surface map. We have a mix of the sun and clouds this afternoon. Most of the clouds right now are those very high, thin cirrus clouds. That doesn't really block out the sunlight. But as the afternoon goes on, those clouds will get thicker. And overnight tonight, we'll be back to seeing cloudy skies. That's ahead of this next storm system. This has been producing rain and snow showers over places like Kansas and Nebraska and into Missouri so far today. It's very slow moving. So what will happen tomorrow is it will move into Iowa. It will still be in Missouri and start to affect northern Illinois, and then it will move into our area Thursday night and into Friday. As it moves here, what's nice about the storm system is it does bring us some warmer temperatures. We're not talking a big heat wave here, but we're talking warm enough that most of the precipitation that we get from that is going to be rain showers, not the snow and the ice. But I do want to say there is some concern of this because the timing is going to have a big impact on whether we see any freezing rain or sleet mixed in there, at least at the initial onset. And I'll show you that why here on Futurecast. This is 4 o'clock this afternoon. No issues of that weather system yet. The winds are light. We'll see that sunshine, the hazy sunshine this afternoon. Overnight tonight, we'll start to see some thicker clouds roll in. And during the day tomorrow, morning commute will be uneventful. This is lunchtime tomorrow. You start to pick up that pink color. The pink indicates a rain-snow mix where we could be getting some of that freezing rain and sleet. And that's over Illinois tomorrow at lunchtime. And it really stays over Illinois during the day on Thursday. As we get to 6 o'clock Thursday night, it starts to sneak into Indiana a little bit. And overnight Thursday night into Friday morning, when we're at the coolest part of the day, we may briefly see that mixture. But again, I want to stress that it looks like most of our temperatures are going to be warm enough that that's not going to be a long-lived event or a big issue for us, especially for our travel on Friday. So today, temperatures do get above freezing. We're still working on that right now. We'll get into the mid-30s. We'll do some slow melting of some of that ice and snow. Not all of it will be gone, but that sunshine will be nice. Partly sunny this afternoon. We will stay in the 20s tonight. What's different about tonight is that we will have a lot more clouds. Those clouds are like a blanket. They insulate us. So without the clear skies, we won't be as cold as the last 2 mornings. And then tomorrow, right around 40 degrees. Lower to mid-40s on Friday. It looks like during the day, that precipitation, the best chance of that will be during the day. That will fall as rain. Then on Saturday, we see it start out as rain and then change over to snow as it cools down Saturday night and Sunday. We could see some light accumulations there, but it doesn't look serious. What I'm more concerned about is the cold air that will be here for the start of next week. Maybe some single-digit readings in the mornings and only teens in the afternoon.
Yeah, 7 degrees. That'll catch your attention for Monday morning.
I think it will. It'll wake you up quick anyways.
All right, Carrie, thanks very much. As a friend of the suspects appears in court, police in California, they're searching for answers today, trying to figure out what the San Bernardino suspects were doing during a certain time frame. Those details next at midday.
First to cover breaking news with Bob Montgomery, your accurate first alert weather forecast with meteorologist Carrie Pujol. You're watching WSBT 22 News at midday.
2 wounded American soldiers and the body of a third have been evacuated from a battlefield in Afghanistan. This is an update to breaking news we told you yesterday. The evacuation delayed Tuesday when a mortar landed near the helicopter. The copter took fire and was not able to take off. The Army says the U.S. Special Forces were advising their Afghan counterparts during a battle with the Taliban. This man will be in court today, charged with buying the assault weapons used in the San Bernardino terror attacks. He's Enrique Marquez, also accused of conspiring with one of the attackers, Saeed Farouk. Marquez also faces charges of making false statements and marriage fraud. This all comes as police are asking the public for help in the case. Investigators say they cannot account for the terrorists in an 18-minute window after the attack and before they were killed in a police shootout. President Obama getting ready to use his veto pen. The House is expected to give final passage to a bill repealing the health care law. It's the first of dozens to pass Congress. The previous bills have been blocked in the Senate. The bill passed the Senate under special budget rules, blocking a filibuster by minority Democrats. It also cuts federal funding for Planned Parenthood. Our check on Wall Street this midday finds not a good day so far. It's been kind of a theme this week. The Dow is down 210 points. We're under 17,000. We're at 16,947. The NASDAQ is also down 39 at 4851. The sunshine, cool today. Temperatures will be rising, but the clouds will come in, and we have big changes in our 7-day. That's coming up.
You know, whether it's beef, pork, or veal, recognizing different cuts of meat can be a tad confusing. Recently, Merle, our MrFood.com editor, got a question from a viewer that many of you may have.
Hi, Howard. Kathy emailed us and wanted to know the difference between a pork loin and a pork tenderloin.
Thanks, Merle. Good question. I know a lot of people get those two confused, so let me show you. Here they are side by side. As you can see, the pork tenderloin is much smaller than the pork loin. In the market, you'll find this whole, cut into smaller roasts, about 2 to 3 pounds each, or into boneless chops. And as for the tenderloin, they may be small, weighing in only at about a pound each, but they're super tender and very lean. And talk about versatile. We can throw them on the grill, saute them in a skillet, or roast them, and they're done in no time. Today we're marinating a couple in some olive oil, lime juice, garlic, and a few spices before roasting them off. And when we serve these sliced and topped with an easy throw together homemade black bean salsa, are you ever in for a treat? As a matter of fact, the recipe for our pork tenderloin with black bean salsa, as well as a bunch of other pork loin and pork tenderloin recipes, are online now. And since pork tenderloin is so lean, our waistlines will thank us. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a tasty tender way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
It's cool, but it is bright outside. We have 30 degrees right now in South Bend and Elkhart. It's 32, so that's the freezing point. This is an important note here in Goshen, and 34 in Rochester. So starting to see temperatures near the freezing point and above, and that will slowly melt a little of that ice and snow. Here's a look at Plymouth. We have that nice blue sky with just those thin clouds. We'll get a little warmer tomorrow and on Friday with some rain showers and then some real cold air next week.
All right, Carrie. Thanks very much. We'll see you WSBT 22 first at 4. Have a great afternoon.